Hey, peace, everyone. So, Medical, thanks for joining me here on Finding the Light. So, I wanted to make a video in reference to the Science of Living Study Guide's first chapter, and that is focuses on what you feed your mind. You are what you feed your mind. And I'm not going to read the whole chapter, but there was an interesting quote that I did want to share. It says, "You will never get any further in life than the idea in your mind." And I think this is so important. I'll just be honest with you. I'm just gonna be very, very frank, and this is not to be vulgar or anything like that to offend anyone. I remember there were times in my life when I was so insecure. I remember when I would masturbate and watch pornography, the women that I would watch, they were usually very unattractive. And I'm not saying this to be vulgar. What I'm trying to say is I had such a low projection in my mind that even with masturbating, I could not even see myself with an attractive woman. Now that's deep. And that speaks on how, this was years ago before I had and I'm just mentioning that there were times I remember I was such at a low state emotionally that I realized I had a serious problem. Even with pornography, I couldn't see myself with a beautiful woman in pornography. And this is so, it's crazy. It's it may sound like a minor thing, but I'm speaking about it on a practical level. Here I was that I could even see myself in a visualization sense. I couldn't see myself with a beautiful woman, so what I did was, I projected or I visualized things that were more realistic to me. This chapter also talks about, your outer world comes from your inner thought. Now, I've heard Neville Goddard speak about this, and Rev Ike has several speeches about this, and I'm going to highlight some of these speeches in the future on this channel. He mentions how, the person that triggers the negative emotions in you, the person that has a fight with you, the person who robs you, the dog that bites you. Neville Goddard, Reverend Ike says the person who incites anger in you. That's all coming from you. There's something in you that you're projecting out in the world that is attracting these people and these vibrations. It's funny, even when I talk about women, when I was, I talk about pornography and stuff, but even when I've thought about this other thing in the past, there's never been a time in my life over the last 10 or 15 years when I've been an adult where I'd say, especially within the last 10 years, whenever I have one woman, I have there's opportunities for me to have several more. So if I'm in a relationship, there's usually some other woman I have access to. There's never just one girlfriend for me. It's okay, there's one girlfriend, and then it's I'm seeing this woman on the side, or this girl, this other young lady, and it's something that I'm doing when my energy is at another higher level where I'm attracting different women. I remember before I went to Brazil years ago, there was an odd, I don't want to digress too much, I'll speak on that later, but I would just say that, at this point in time, I was doing well financially, spiritually, and mentally, and I was attracting various types of women before I went to Brazil. Never feed your mind negative. Now, I mentioned this in this chapter, and this is the book, The Science of Living by Rev Ike, and it's available on Amazon, by the way, and you can get the Kindle version and a physical copy. I ordered both, and so it mentioned that encouraged study groups. So I'm sharing with the internet community. If this video finds you and you're interested in speaking about this stuff, please comment. I'd like to hear from you. No news. I've heard this mentioned a number of times by success coaches and so forth. If something is really, really important, someone will come and talk to you about it. Other than that, keep your mind out of the media. Even Reverend Ike was so far ahead with his teaching. He talked about avoiding the news so much because the news media will tell you how to become sick. And again, I've got to review these speeches and find out which one, but he's they'll tell you what kind of headache to get and so forth. And then whatever people focus on, that's where the attention goes then a number of these people are going to become sick and so forth. So I don't know to what extent, but I do know it's not healthy to watch the news at all these days. Even with, and I want to say this also, even be mindful of a lot of content that you're watching pertaining to, it could be about any topic. Like, let's say you're interested in feminism. Let's say you're interested in like the red pill community or MGTOW or any of these things. The bottom line is usually a lot of that stuff is negative. It's not making you feel good. There are certain people like that I'm interested in their channels. They make content for men, talk about self-improvement, but the vast majority of them, these men that I look at, the vast majority of their content doesn't make me feel good. It's like very negative. So I had decided, like even a few months ago, like if I was gonna watch any of that self-improvement stuff, and if it was like red pill or MGTOW stuff, like I'm not a part of those groups, but I would say like I would moderate my time, be mindful of the time that I would give to those topics. They would be very brief because those topics don't fall in line with what I want in life. The one guy in the red pill community I really thought was that I was attracted to was George Bruno, because he says he's a man who understands that there are differences between men and women, but he says, you know what? He's a man who loves women and children still, so he wants to have a wife or a good woman in his life and children. So I thought that was kind of more reasonable. He made a good illustration about not eating poisoned food. Of course you're not going to eat poisoned food. The same thing, we digest a lot of negative content. It could be from the media, it could be from anywhere. Just sometimes we get in the habit of digesting negative content, negative stuff on social media, Facebook, and so forth, and it takes a toll on you. Even the music, man. And I'm really gonna have to start moderating my music list, because I listen to a lot of, like, when I go exercise, I listen to a lot of things that I know that's in a very low vibration, and I'm gonna have to definitely consider making a new playlist. So be mindful of the images you digest. Visualization. Neville Goddard and Reverend Ike spoke about visualization. Law of attraction. Esther Hicks. Now, they mentioned, I reviewed some of their content on law of attraction, and if you've never heard of Esther Hicks and her husband, I'm not into all of their beliefs about where they get the information from, but a lot of their principles just make sense. And they speak about doing visualization, sitting somewhere, visualizing things that you want. And one of the things I've even started doing is, like, on my folder on my laptop, I have a folder of things that I want. The type of car that I want, the type of woman that I want, the type of dog and apartment, all these things. And I've been doing it more routinely. And even in my last video, I talked about Reverend Ike and how I got introduced to teachings. I mentioned that the current physical location that I'm in right now, I manifested this work location when I was homeless. All right, and I speak about that in my last video. Again, this is just to start an ongoing dialogue, talk about Reverend Ike's teachings. Hopefully, just law of attraction, manifestation type of stuff, topics on Neville Goddard, and just using our mind more critically. And speaking about feeding your mind, I just want to leave you with this. Years ago, I stumbled onto Neville Goddard and Reverend Ike through Zig Ziglar. And Zig Ziglar mentioned, him and Les Brown mentioned, the first 30 minutes when you wake up in the morning, feed yourself something positive. So listen to something that's inspirational and inspires you the first 30 minutes, because that's going to set the tone for your day. All right? Peace.